I am pleased to welcome the owner, one of the best 50 restaurants in the world, and the best well-known Turkish chef in the world as well, creator of Mikla, Mehmet Gürs. Hello, Mehmet Bey. Nice to meet you.
Hi. Good to meet you. Good to meet you.
Okay. Now the time our PhD student asking research questions relating to food fabrication. But first, many people may be surprised why we see a chef as a designer. We think that there are many clues in that way. Mehmet Bey, do you see yourself as a designer?
It's a mixed world for us. Of course, design is a part of it, but then again, what is design? That's the question maybe to ask. For a lot of people, design is too much about the look, whereas don't you start with a good idea? Good design is a good idea maybe. And when you look at food, it has to be designed starting from the idea of it. It has to be good for you. It has to be tasty. It has to have the right feeling, the right textures. It has to taste good and also hopefully look good. Why do something ugly when you can do something beautiful?
In your shows, you go to many places and you go talk to local people who also make food in there. You gather inspiration from them. You learn their materials, learn about their techniques and many more things. I think in these trips, you act almost like an ethnographer. So in design, we often go talk to people as well. We try to understand their motivations and frustrations and regarding the subject of our study. But the difference I observed between your practice and the design practice is actually in design, we have several guidelines that lead us to how to conduct our research, where to look at, or how to ask people about something. We have some structured methodologies that guide us through our research process. So I was wondering, we also have lots of methods that are used for documentation, which I believe documentation is a method, is the thing that we pass on our knowledge to the next generations, which is very important in my opinion. So I wonder if culinary arts also have that kind of structured methodologies in research, or if there are any, do you follow any of them, or do you draw on the knowledge of other disciplines maybe, such as ethnography? And also, I'm also interested in how you document your research. How do you plan to, or do you have any concrete efforts that you do to document the knowledge that you gathered and pass on to the next generation?
Lot of questions in one. So let me see how the answer might be. It might take 2 hours, but I'll try to make it as short as I can, as quick as I can. I think that when you design a product or when you design anything, and yes, you talked about methodology. We also have a methodology. You talk about materials. We also have materials. Techniques. We also have techniques. When you look into cultures, of course, food especially, it's one of the biggest mirrors or reflections of your culture. And what we do, we tend to bring them all together, or at least that's what we do. When we look into a new plate, let's say a new product for you would be a new dish for us, or a new food item. There are a lot of things involved in it. Our source of inspiration very often comes from, it can be either a new ingredient, would be the material, it's a new ingredient. It would be a new technique or a different technique. New doesn't necessarily mean a new invention. It can be a very traditional technique or an ingredient that was almost lost that we found again. It's a let's say the CS bulgur, the CS wheat strain was almost extinct. We found it again. We recreated some dishes with it. So for us, the source of inspiration or the way we go about it, we can look at technique, we can look at the ingredient, we can look at the culture. How did people eat this? Did they sit around the table? Did they share it? Do you use your fork and knife, or do you want to use a spoon? When do you eat it? Do you eat it in the beginning of the day, or do you eat it towards the end of the day? Very often there's a mix of home cooking and let's say restaurant cooking, because that's another game. The way we create a dish in restaurants, the methodology, now I'm going to come to your methodology questions, is very different from what you do at home. Often when you cook at home, you start you cook, and then when you're done cooking, you sit down with your friends or family, you eat it. Whereas in the restaurant, it's very structured. There are rules that we have to follow. It cannot take too many minutes or too many steps during the service, because then the customer will never get the food. So for us, for example, I used to have a system of 7. It was 7 steps. I had certain things counted as 1 step, certain things counted as 2 steps, certain things as half a step. But the dish that I was making, if it had more than 7 steps, I would not put it on the menu, because it wouldn't be possible to create a high-end, high-quality meal with too many steps involved. So that was a methodology I used to use, but now more and more I'm going towards simpler food, simpler and let's say more natural food. Like design, trends come and go. Same thing in food as well. And I'm very happy to say that we go more and more towards the pure and the natural in our field. And that's, again, looking into the culture, looking into etymology, or whatever you want to look into. That's how we go about it. I work a little bit different. Most chefs around the world, they have a research lab. And the research lab, there can be scientists, there can be food scientists, or any other. They might work with people like yourself that are creating products, that are designing products. We did that many years ago, about 15 years ago. That's how I worked as well. But then for the past 10 years, I've completely switched my way of research, documentation, and also our source of creation has been much more in the field. We go to the villagers, we talk to the grandmothers, grandfathers, the uncles and aunts who have been cooking, maybe not with the written knowledge, but they've been listening to their parents, they've been listening to the aunts and uncles and getting the information from there. So what we try to do, we try to document it. We keep recipes, we keep photographs, short videos of all of this. We keep them and we try to organize them as much as possible. And then we get the inspiration from there, because with food, very often, as with other music, you record it, right? So it doesn't die. You have the note, you have your notes written down, you have the chords written down, you have all of that information. But with the food, if you don't keep on making it, or if you don't keep on updating it as well, that's one of the biggest issues we have, because our habits change. I cannot take food and put it in a museum or put it in like a book. I cannot just put it there. It doesn't matter. The food, it has to be eaten. So the habits change constantly. The food that was eaten 100 years ago or 200 years ago or even 50 years ago is not the same that you will be eating when you become my age, let's say. I don't know how old you are, probably like in your mid-20s or early 20s something. So when you're when you come to my age, what you will eat as a person will be different than from what you eat today. So that means that everything we do with food, everything we do when we design food, has to do with the past. It has to do with what we do today, but it also has to do with what we do in the future. So yes, the methodology is it's not creating a product, let's say like a glass. We don't just design the glass and that's it. It's a constantly evolving issue. It's every single day it changes a bit. So to create something structured there, it is a bit of a challenge, but that's how we work.
In one of the episodes of your documentary series, Ruhun Doysun, you said the obsession of making a meal aesthetically pleasant can distract us from what is crucial. It's applicable for all the other design fields. It's a main issue, and you already told about this. Similar concerns apply to all the other design disciplines. From this perspective, how do you seek and find a balance between the term aesthetics and cruciality, or meaning or functionality? And what would be your suggestion to designers about the endeavor of seeking this balance?
I think it's a really it's a short but very I think it's a deep question. Thank you. The whole idea of balance is I think the issue. I think maybe the answer lies in your question even. I'm a firm believer in that form follows function. So if it's just beauty because of the beauty, depends on what you're doing. If you're creating a product, if you're creating a dish, that's fine. Then it has to have a function. If it's just a beautiful painting or a sculpture, it doesn't have to have any function. The function there is the beauty in itself. And that is very subjective. What you might find beautiful, I might not, or vice versa. So, but when it comes to food, and I think a lot of products as well, is what is the essence of it? What is the essence of food? The essence of it is actually nourishing. It has to be good for us. We are what we eat. Our building blocks as a human are the stuff that we put in us. What we eat is what creates us every single day until the day we die. The day our factory stops, then we die. The day our cells don't regenerate, that's when we die. So until the last day, we have to eat. And it's what we put in us, that's the function. That's the functionality. So if we start thinking of aesthetics too much and forget the functionality of it, it's useless. Then we've created a useless product, a product that has no use whatsoever. It's good sometimes, we can have a drink or we can eat something that is even bad for us, but then emotionally it's good. It can be good having a candy or something sweet. It's good for us emotionally, which is also very important. Everything cannot just be pure health. It cannot just be about pure health. So it's a nice balance there. And I think that especially with restaurants coming up and then the age of Instagram or the age of social media, the whole notion of aesthetics has changed, not just for food, but for humans as well. I mean, filters and this and that, showing something that's maybe not the reality. And I hope that the true, properly designed items of food will be the honest ones. The good versus bad is genuine versus fake. That's, I think, is going to be the future. And that's where the balance really lies, to be honest with you, finding that really fine point. It's not easy, but finding that nice line. And again, who are the people using your products? Who are the people eating in your restaurant or eating your food? It all depends on that balance there as well.
It is necessary to understand any given field's nature and process to contribute to it. On the other hand, we are beginning to see technological tools in the cooking process, such as high-tech robots that can automatically heat, cool, mix, and shape materials. What's your perspective on using automated robots in the kitchen? How can they be designed to adhere to the essence of cooking?
This is a very controversial question that creates huge arguments all around the world. And my take on it, it's mixed. I'm very open to new technologies. Sometimes it creates a better product. That robot has more precision than I would ever have. So sometimes it creates a better, or that not just me, even the best, let's say, Japanese sushi master cannot cut as precisely sometimes as a robot. But that's not all there is. So maybe if you measure it, the product might be better, or the end use might be better. It might be more efficient. You might use less energy to create that one product. All of this is the positive side of it. But in a way, the negative side of it is what will happen with all the people. It's a more of a social impact as well. So when you look at something that you design, a product or anything that you design, it's not just the end product. It's also what happens around, what happens socially. All of the cooks, all of the farmers, the people in the field. Let's say you use robot in the agricultural field, which could be good. You can get better results maybe. But what will happen with all the people living in the village? Will they end up moving to a city? Then you have a larger urban areas. What will happen with people working in restaurants? Will they go on unemployment? So all of this is, again, a very nice balance. I'm not against any robots in any shape or form. Use as much technology as possible. Use as much science as possible, any and everywhere. I don't think there's enough science as it is today, either in Turkey or abroad, anywhere. I mean, people are not focusing enough on science, so definitely. And so robots, I'm for it, but there's a fine line. The moment it starts switching our or switching it to bad, the social structure, because social structure, we keep on moving. But the moment you can get into a trap where you lose your conversation, you lose your human feelings, you lose your interaction. A reason why people go to work is not just to make money, it's also the social interaction. So if the robot's making it, what will those people be doing all day? So there's a nice balance there.
Working in the food sector often involves considering complex relationships between these like materials, stakeholders, and the process of transforming them into meaningful pieces, the outcome. However, when we look at the meaning of dining experience, this complex process is relatively unknown by the customer. They don't see what's happening on the behind. They only see what's served. A similar situation is also valid for the design process in our discipline. We often deal with, again, complex problems or complex processes. And in most cases, users are only the end part of it, although there are some other approaches involving users more and more. In that sense, how do you think this complexity in the food sector can be utilized in a way that customers can be more aware of the process of what's happening on the background, creating of these meaningful pieces, rather than only showing, for example, ingredients routes? How can we address these problems with different strategies? I am curious about this.
I think we have already started to show it. Think of a restaurant. When you go to a restaurant, for example, there's an open kitchen now. Most restaurants have an open kitchen. Before, it used to be behind hidden walls, hidden doors, but now it's all in the open for people to see what's actually going on. So that's one part of it, or one way of doing it. Cooking shows, this and that. Of course, there's a lot of show going on, but being more and more open about what's going on. One thing that is a very complex issue when design, you can design a food, you can design the most amazing plate, the best tasting, the beautiful, the best looking plate, but it's not enough because it's a part of a whole process. What I think the biggest difference is between when you design a product like a pen or anything versus food is that food, unless it's a packaged food, but if it's, let's talk about a restaurant, for example, there's a process in between. We take something that's alive. Everything that we use in our process, everything that we use to get that end plate has once been alive. So we take something that's alive, it's an animal, it's a plant, it was alive. We kill it, and then we bring it to something at the end. And as anything alive, it's never the same. So we cannot have exact processes if we're talking about real food. Every little thing, there are small changes all along. And that is what we're trying to show as much as possible. That's why we talk about open kitchen. That's why we have changing menus all the time or changing dishes all the time because the raw material we get in. So the process is there. It's very complex. I agree with you. It's very complex and it's last minute. That's why this industry, they call it so stressful, because it's all last minute, all last second. It all have to work. It's a lot of orchestration going on. Showing it, I think that our industry as a total is fairly transparent. It's getting more and more transparent, more maybe than when you look at some people, they go in, they buy a glass and they think, okay, it's a beautiful glass, but they don't know the process that goes on behind it. How do you show it? It's very difficult because you design it, maybe through documentaries, maybe using social media more to be more transparent, to actually show the true effort that goes into it. If you would be able to do that, that I think would be even more valuable to the end product. It is a difficult question for me to ask because what we do, we don't finish the product and keep them on a shelf. The product is made that second or that minute. And so at one time there's design on one side of it, but the other portion that we haven't touched too much on today is there's a constant production. So we are actually a production line. Design is one stage, but then there's actually a live production line going on in the restaurant.
A chef who have reached a certain level are also aware that they have a risk repeating themselves because they have a code a certain style. What precautions do you take for yourself to avoid such a risk?
We do keep on repeating ourselves, and to a certain extent, I'm okay with it, because our main goal, what we're trying to reach is to try to cook the tastiest, the most nutritious, the best feeling food, and if you look at the people that usually cook the best, they are the mothers and the grandmothers or the grandfathers or fathers that have been repeating the same thing over and over and over. So in our work, perfection or close to perfection we get there through repetition. So it is in the consumerism, let's say, or in the consumer world, it is a risk because at the end of the day, we need to sell the product. it has to be a novelty. But if we can step away from it, we have ways of going around. We call them classics. We call them our classic dishes. So when we renew a menu, we don't renew everything. We renew a small part of it. And for that, we look at traditions. How do we take them from yesterday? How can we get them tomorrow? But try to renew the whole range every single time. It wouldn't be an intelligent move to do, because it takes so much practice and so much repetition to get it to a certain level. So I would be afraid of those who are changing the menus constantly. At home, that's fine. But in the restaurant, you're a paying customer and you expect something in return. So there I would be a bit more conservative.
Thank you so much to part of top Turkish designers. We talk about edible design with one of the world-renowned Turkish chef, Mehmet Gürs. Thank you so much.
Thank you.